online classes. I think it's almost like the new norm right now, but it's
Yeah,
also comfortable for some people as they tend to prefer online classes, right?
exactly.
So
It's accessible from anywhere, so I
that's the
think it's a
thing.
good
Yeah.
thing. And now you can't give out reasons and say, I can't
I
travel
can't
here
make
and that.
it.
You can't. Something was very different about yoga asana because it forced me to look within more than actually trying to achieve a pose, which was my ideal goal when I was practicing. It actually offered me something else. You have to have enough knowledge to teach, right? And more than me being a yoga teacher, you're always a seeker first.
Vanakkam, Namaste, and hello, everyone. Welcome to the 83rd episode of Inside the Minds of Great Yogis. In today's episode, we have a very special guest, Gowri Murthy. Gowri Murthy is a passionate classical dancer and dedicated yoga practitioner. Born into an art-loving family, she began her movement journey with Bharatnatyam and Kuchipudi under her guru and aunt, Dr. Veena Murthy Vijay. Her love for building community and sharing movement naturally extended to yoga, which deepened during the pandemic. After years of practicing Vinyasa, she pursued her RYT 200-hour certification in Ashtanga, hatha, and Vinyasa yoga in Rishikesh and continues her sadhana through Abhyasa bootcamps in Mysore. Gowri strives to restore yoga's true essence beyond modern fitness trends, emphasizing it as an accessible, holistic practice for everyone in every aspect of life. It is a pleasure to welcome Gowri on the Inside the Minds of Great Yogis podcast. So let's give a big round of applause and welcome Gowri. Hi,
Thank you
Gowri.
so much.
Welcome onto the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me here on your show. And it's pretty cool that you've done 82 episodes before this. I've actually, in fact, listened to some when you got in touch with me. And I think you're doing a really amazing job. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot. And I think we can get started. And the first question that I have for you today is, how did your journey of yoga begin?
So at a very young age, I started to learn Indian classical dance, Bharatnatyam and Kuchipudi under my dearest aunt, who happens to be my dad's sister. So growing up around a cultural family was super. I think that's where my yogic journey started, without me actually having to know that it was yoga itself. But mindful practices. Focusing on being fit, not just physically, but mentally, being emotionally balanced. So I think these are small values that you learn through ancient scriptures of movement and dance and yoga as well. So I think my journey started a long time ago, but to be precise, I think I wanted to start practicing physical asana after being inspired by a couple of break dancers. I watched these b-boy and b-girls go into their flow effortlessly, doing flips and balances and inversions like it was nothing. So it was very inspiring for me. And I went back after a jam one day and tried a headstand and fell off. But I was like, this is what it is, this is the balance. You give something a try, and then only can you find out whether it's happening or not happening or what you want to do about it. So I feel like yoga, in terms of intense physical practice, started just after probably during my college days, where I wanted to deepen my own physical sadhana, physical practice sadhana, and I feel like everything else also came with the physical practice.
Thank you for sharing that there and a little bit about how your journey with yoga started. It's inspiring to see your journey as both a dancer and then, coming into yoga as well. So thank you for sharing that there. And the next question I'd like to come into is, how did your early training in Bharatanatyam and Kuchipudi influence your approach to yoga? I know you kind of touched upon this, but if you could go more into the
Yeah.
specifics.
Yeah, to go a little deeper into it, we were reading theories of Bharata Muni, who wrote Natya Shastra, which is the book of dance. And I was very young to be reading serious things like that. So to read about rasas, emotions, it took me to a very deep uh, inquiry within myself at a young age, you know. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm a very sensitive person because I'm Cancerian, and I know a lot of Cancerians are highly emotional and sensitive. So I feel like I've always been that way. Um, but mainly focusing on physical practice forces you to look at your breath. How is your breath seeming in this position? How is your breath seeming right after a very intense jati? How is your breath feeling when you've just finished a long day and sleeping? So I feel like dance has brought me awareness about breath, especially after a physical practice. How does a physical practice affect your breath? I feel like that connection is what I grew on, and what I take as important lessons from Kuchipudi and Bharatnatyam.
Thank you for sharing that there, and your sort of perspective on dance forms as well as your approach in yoga there. The next question I'd like to come into is that, so in your bio, actually, you've mentioned that yoga was always present in your life, but it took a deeper turn during the first wave of COVID. So
That's
I'm
right.
kind of curious, can you talk about that shift and what that was like for you?
Yeah, so continuing this story of when I got inspired by the dancers and started practicing by myself, I think I started gaining so much more inner awareness about my own body, like how balanced am I in this position? How is my right side of the body feeling? How are my organs feeling? So it's a very deep connection that started to build with my physical practice, which was amazing because I've always been an active person, dancing or an athlete, but something was very different about yoga asana because it forced me to look within more than actually trying to achieve a pose, which was my ideal goal when I was practicing. It actually offered me something else. It offered me a chance to look inside rather than be focused on the shapes that I was making, right? Although that was my intention, it just completely changed my perspective of yogic asana. So during COVID, I think we had so much more time to do this because everything came to a stop. And I think that was such a beautiful thing in a lot of ways, where people came back to their bodies. Because we tend to live in our minds, we tend to live in our heads. So to tap back into your body, listen to what it has to say, I think played a major role not just for me but for a lot of people in during the COVID time. So I was continuing practicing by myself, but a few of my dance friends had back injuries, some knee injuries, and during COVID, now that everything was, happening online, a few of them approached me and asked me if I could help with their back injury or knee injury through yoga. And I was like, okay, I've not really taught before, but I mean, what could go bad? This is a good opportunity for me. So I feel like COVID was a turning point for me because I finally found my calling to share what I had been or have been learning throughout all the years. So it was a good way to start sharing what I knew. And that's when it took a turn. I started with one online class and then I had two more clients, I had three. So I think COVID was a great time to build my online clientele. And I still have an online clientele till date. So I'm grateful for COVID in a way. Um, it also did push me to learn more because you have to learn, you have to have enough knowledge to teach, right? And more than me being a yoga teacher, you're always a seeker first. So it made me want to learn more and study more and go deeper into yogic theory. So what I was sharing could make a lot more sense, and people could take something meaningful back and let that grow in their yogic journey. So I think COVID that way played a major role because I had so much time to actually study and go deep into my practice.
Thank you for sharing that there and a little bit about how COVID-19 sort of both influenced and impacted your yoga teaching. And I really like how you talked about also online classes. I think it's almost like the new norm right now, but it's
Yeah,
also comfortable for some people as they tend to prefer online classes, right?
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So
mean,
th
it's accessible from anywhere, so I
that's
think
the
it's a
thing.
good
Yeah.
thing. And now you can't give out reasons and say, I can't
I
travel
can't
here
make
and that.
it.
You can't. Yeah, so you always have some or the other way to meet online, virtually, and practice and learn together, which is a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that there. And the next question I'd like to come into is you've been passionate about building communities around movement arts. So, how do you see yoga contributing to stronger and more mindful communities?
Yoga's one of yoga's major goals is to give. Okay, just give, right? And who do you give to? You give to communities, you give to your friends, you give to your teachers, you give back to your family, you give back to your students. So giving, I think, is the greatest thing that yoga has preached so far, because there's different types of yogas. What we see today, very popularly known as hatha yoga, is a form of raja yoga. Again, mostly related to the physical body, the mental body. It's still all related to this being here, right? But when you look at karma yoga or jnana yoga or bhakti yoga, there is so much divinity in all of this. There's no judgment. There's you learn without having to want to achieve something or get something in return, and you're completely surrendering to what nature or universe has to give you. So I feel like yoga that way teaches you so much more than the physical body. And coming back to your question, um, it's just a sec. Yeah, I would say communities are built around trust, compassion, and wanting to the need and the need to want to learn together, to grow together. So I've always grown up in a Bharatnatyam dance setting where we were all in the same class, and my teacher used to teach us together, put us in a group, and say practice together. So growing up in groups and practicing and learning together, I think has contributed to my love to grow a community now. And like I said, after COVID, wellness has taken a big turn in people's lives, and people are now so much more open to trying different forms of activities. Apart from yoga and dance, I also participate and teach flow arts. Flow arts. Meaning we spin the hula hoop, the poi, we have slacklining. So it's so beautiful to see that the flow arts community right now in Bangalore, especially, is growing so big, and in India, again, so big. But I think in the West, it's actually been there for quite long, flow arts and communities. So it's nice to see how people are prioritizing health and wellness, number one now, and meeting up together and inspire each other to grow, right? Um, you need the push, you need people's support initially, at least, to get to a point where, I wouldn't say it's validation, but just to know that everyone is also on the same boat as you in some way or the other. So I think community plays a strong role in being a yogic person or being on a yogic journey. And there's a very beautiful quote I think Baba Ramdas had shared. Um, he said, "We're all just walking each other home." So You need people to walk yourself home and walk each other home as well. So I think communities play a very, very major role in any yogic being or their journey.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that there. I think I really like how you mentioned about community playing a role and the idea of like having people so that, the word gets spread around. So having connections is something absolutely like very important. So thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that there. And now I have some rapid fire questions for you. And the first question I'd like to get into is what advice would you give to a beginner who feels intimidated by yoga?
In today's world, I know it's rapid fire. I'm going to try and keep it short. But everyone's so obsessed with the physical body and making yogic body shapes. That's why it might seem intimidating because I've heard the first time if anyone approaches me and asks me, I want to do yoga, like, yeah, so come join me. No, 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 I'm not as flexible. Like, that's the first thing that pops into anyone's mind because they think yoga is a form of physical practice where the body has to be flexible. But yoga was made for everybody. So, my advice for somebody who is intimidated by yoga would be to first maybe read about it rather than actually stepping onto the mat and trying to do some fancy physical stuff. Keep it simple. Like, you don't have to try a split in your first class, you don't have to try a headstand in your first class, right? And that's why it might seem intimidating, but start slow, start simple. Read more before you actually step onto your mat to do a physical practice.
Thank you for sharing that there. And I'm going to come into the next question that I have for you. So I'm wondering, how do you balance your own sadhana while teaching others or along with teaching others?
Very important question. And most yoga teachers, I feel, at some point face this little tiff like, am I just teaching or am I still being a seeker and continuing my sadhana? I think it's a very important and big question, and it keeps fluctuating. Like, maybe some days you're really, really working hard and you need to pay your bills, you need to do this, you need to do that. You need your yoga community to help you in different ways. So I feel like that way you do get warped in to this concept of yoga being a monetary a source, right, of income. But you look at the other side, what all are you learning to teach? And as a practitioner, you also do get exhausted. Like, you're probably teaching the same class 1 week, second week, third week. What next? You'll need to fill your own cup to share it with others. So, as a seeker and a practitioner and a teacher, I would say doing your sadhana is the most important, because when you don't do your sadhana, you're not able to deliver, you're not able to offer, you're not able to share. So be a seeker first, do your sadhana, and the teaching will happen by itself.
Thank you for sharing that there. And I really like the idea of having it balanced, doing your own sadhana as well as also giving the knowledge to others through yoga. So thank you for sharing that there. And now the final question that I have for you is for someone with limited time, what are some poses you would recommend as a daily practice?
Um, some poses that I would recommend are chair pose, Utkatasana. I think we should all be doing some squats, but like traditional Utkatasana from the yogic asana series, because this works on your calves, your entire spinal structure, your abdomen. It's a good core exercise. So all in all, I think Utkatasana is great for the whole body. Um, Let me give you two more. I think another would be butterfly, because your hips are where a lot of trauma goes in. A lot of emotional stuff just gets stuck in your hips and your shoulders. So something for the hips would be a good butterfly, forward fold, or even a pigeon pose, Raja Kapotasana. Anything for the hips to be opened up. And other one would be something for the upper body. So, um, cat and cow or Garudasana, I would say, especially given that everyone now has whole COVID thing is done. People have moved back to their desks and are spending hours together looking at their laptops and their phones. The posture itself in people has come to change over the last few years itself. So something to reverse this posture incorrection would be to try Garudasana or eagle hand. So you just wrap your arms in a little twist, and so much opens up in the upper back and the shoulders. So shoulders, hips, anything to open them up would be your go-to asana, and chair pose is a must. Chair pose is so good for your calves, and your calves are known to be your second heart. So good for your blood circulation and just your overall systemic movement in the body.
Thank you for sharing these poses there, and I'm sure that it will resonate with our audience as well as viewers. So thank you for sharing that. And that is the end of our questions. So Gauri, thank you so much for joining me on the 83rd episode of Inside the Minds of Great Yogis. It has been a pleasure having you on the show and learning a bit more about yourself, both as a dancer and then a yoga teacher. And I hope we're able to connect again and hopefully have you on the podcast again. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank everyone else who's yet to listen to our 83rd episode of Inside the Minds of Great Yogis. And until next time, I hope everyone has a wonderful day. And thank you for joining me, Gowri. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for having me. It was my
Thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you for joining me.